Welcome to Front Up on GinoTV.com and Channel 99. I'm Dan Drake, and our guest is Chuck Gifford, who is the manager of Sherburne Commons.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Good.
Sherburne Commons being?
Sherburne Commons being Nantucket's retirement community. We have assisted living and independent living, about 52 different units. We have 20 cottages. We have 18. We have 20 cottages, which are independent living. We have 18 apartments, which are independent living, and we have 14 apartments, which are assisted living. And I'm happy to say that we are, as of this moment, at 65% occupancy for all of those added up together. The independent apartments are basically 95% full, and I have a commitment on the last one. The cottages are, I have an arrangement with the hospital for 4 of the cottages, and then year-round cottages. Then I also have 4 cottages that are set up to be rentals. In other words, they're fully furnished and can be rented in the summer or even in the off-season, or even, by the week. And so I have 3 of those cottages that are all wide open at this point. So come summer, with the commitments that I have on the summer, we'll be actually at about 72%.
How did we get to this point with Sherburne Commons? We went through a period when it was set up as a non-profit organization that ended up having some serious problems.
Did.
And the present operator took it over, what, 3 years ago?
Yes, 3 years ago.
And
it opened in 06 and operated for about 2 years as a not-for-profit. And unfortunately, they just couldn't fill it. It opened with a different business model than we have today. Today we are fully 100% rental. When it opened with what was known as an entrance fee model. In other words, you would pay a certain amount down with the commitment that you would get 90% of that back at the time that you left, for whatever reason that you left. With bankruptcy, unfortunately, all debts are wiped out. So they went through a period of time. The bankruptcy was about 2 years, not quite 2 years, and then emerged from bankruptcy when a company called Servant, which is a real estate investment trust, purchased the assets. The town still owns the land. And then they hired a company called Riverwood to come in and manage the place. And that's who we all work for, is for Riverwood. And I've been there for about 2 years, a little over 2 years.
Is it a hard sell?
It's not really, because I mean, obviously I'm biased, but it's a really nice place.
No, it is a nice place. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more in terms, some of the issues I've heard about people considering buying in there or moving in there now relate to the fact that they're far from family in many instances, and they want to find a place that's closer to somebody who's going to keep an eye on them as they get older and so on. So that, I would think, would be an issue.
Well, our residents kind of break into 3 groups. We have the group that are the people who've lived here most, if not all, of their lives. And we have the people who perhaps summered here and have now retired to the island and to the community, our community. And then we have parents of children who live here. Exactly. We don't generally get people calling us up from Tuscaloosa saying, I'd really like to be living with y'all, and can I come up there? So really, the people that are there are somehow connected to the island. Yes, there are people on the island who then subsequently will leave the island and go be with family elsewhere. So that's that's an issue. But I think that the more that people see what we have to offer, and the more people come in and sort of look around or talk to people who live there, that certainly helps us. That helps us a lot. The one area that we were not, where we could do better, is in the assisted living group. Again, as I said, we had 14 apartments there, and I've only have 4 people in there right now. I've had more. Unfortunately, a couple of people have passed away recently. But that's the harder sell, I think.
Well, that's the whole issue of getting somebody to move out of their house.
Right.
And
and it's also understanding that it's not moving all the way to a skilled nursing facility. In other words, the island home.
Right.
That there's a point in time where you could use some help with your daily living skills, and we can offer you that. Whether that's help with dressing or help in the shower or with food or medication, those kinds of things. But you're not at a point where you need to have a full-time nursing support and help. And one of the things, one of the beauties of Nantucket is that we take care of ourselves. We take care of our friends and our family here very well. And that sort of works against the Sherburne Commons to some extent, because normally at that point where family and friends are taking care of you, it would be about the time that would be perfect to come to our assisted living and let us take care of you. And then later on, if as need be, maybe move to the island home.
Is the financial past sort of a factor in people's still in the selling process and having to deal with it?
The further we get away from it, the better it gets. The fact that we are not an entrance fee model anymore, but strictly rental, I think is helping. Because yes, we still have people who will come in and say, well, now, do I have to put down a big down payment? And we say, no, it's strictly, a monthly rental fee. But in that rental fee, you're getting gourmet meal a day on the independent side and 3 on the assisted, plus all the maintenance, plus all the housekeeping, plus, any landscaping if you're in the cottage. Trash is taken care of for you, all that kind of thing.
Nobody does
plus
that
all
for
your
me.
utilities.
Nobody does that for me.
Yeah, well, maybe we should talk.
Nantucket seems to me has a pretty good spectrum of available spaces for people, elderly people who need some kind of facility, whether even it be independent living or assisted living. In terms of, you have the old, I'm trying to think of the name of it, the old island home out on Orange Street, Landmark
House. Thank you. Yes.
And you have Academy Hill,
right?
And you have Sherburne Commons,
and you have the Homestead,
Yep. So, is there anything missing in that spectrum? I mean, is there a piece of service, an element of service that is missed in terms of the needs of the community? Because clearly, Sherburne Commons requires a certain amount of income to live there, and the others, at least Academy Hill and Landmark House, have some kind of subsidy.
Right.
I think the Homestead is also.
I think the Homestead has that too.
Do they?
Yeah. Is there something missing in the continuum?
In the continuum, yeah.
I don't know. I hadn't thought about that, to be honest with you, Dan. I don't know. I think between us all, we probably do cover the waterfront.
And then you have at the end of the scale, the end of the road, our island homes.
Right.
So.
Right. I know that. No, I think I think that between us, I think we're covering all of the housing bases anyway.
And I would assume that the relative lack of people in the assisted living area will change as the population grows older.
Well, I think that's what we're hoping. Yeah. I am anyway.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think again, the longer that we're here, there was never any assisted living on the island prior to Sherburne Commons. So part of it, I think, is still, believe it or not, education and helping people understand that it is an option and that it is a place that people could come. The other thing that we do offer also is we have respite for people who perhaps are coming out of a medical situation, aren't quite ready to go back and be independent at home, but aren't in a position where they need full nursing care. We've had a number of people who have taken advantage of our respite program. And it's also available for, if you have a family member who requires a great deal of your time and your effort as the caregiver, and you would like to have a vacation or you would like to have some time to go off, we again can provide that respite and provide the care for.
I think that's good
for
to
the
know.
Individual.
That's very good to know.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as the swing bed at the hospital.
No.
That requires more medical
exactly.
assistance.
Exactly. And in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, assisted living is intentionally a residential model. In other words, it's not a medical model. It's not a Medicare or Medicaid model. It's strictly a residential model. So again, we can provide that option. We've also, I mentioned the 4 cottages that we rent. We do summer rentals. Either for people who, I mean, we've had one couple who've been coming with us, this will be their 3rd year in a row, and they'd sold their house and thought that was it, and they were going to, go do something else in the summer, and came around about April of that year, and I thought, oh my God, we're not going, we got to go to Nantucket, we've got to get back there, and we were able to help them out, and they're, like I said, coming back for their 3rd year. We can also, if people have want to come to the summer, maybe they've got a rental or even a seasonal house, and they've got a parent or an elder relative that they're concerned about, we've done assisted living for the summer for people. That same sort of thing, a summer rental for people in assisted living.
In terms of your intake, do you work with any of the, particularly for the assisted living, do you work with any of the with the hospital or with the social service agencies on that?
We've worked with them, yeah, and we've made them, make them aware of the fact that we're out there and that what we have to offer. So yes, we'll work with anybody.